Nice. Okay. Good. Okay. So today's Zoom call kind of just wanted to overview kind of about how to take a hockey player kind of as far as possible and what that kind of looks like. So essentially, the model and the systems that I'm thinking of here are ones that I wish I used growing up, right? And something I wish I had, or I thought of, or I knew, for example. And this whole concept is around if I had to build a hockey player from scratch. And that's kind of what I use now is like if I were to build an elite player from scratch, how would I do it? What would the systems be? What would they be doing? What would they have to know? And so that's kind of like what I've built this around is if I had to build a hockey player from scratch. This is exactly how I do it. And how I would start essentially is, well, we'll get into it in a sec, but I'll tell you what we're going to go over today. So we're going to go over a few things. First, we're going to go over the performance map, essentially, which is like what performance is made of, like understanding like actually what matters in performance, what allows you to be a good hockey player. Second, we'll go into like the performance formula, like the process, the formula to actually like improving and getting as far as possible. Then kind of some performance laws, like the things that actually govern the game, like things that actually, the laws of development, essentially that you need to know. And kind of cover those three basics because those are essentially going to take you as far as possible. It's like understanding the game, understanding performance, how to improve it, and then the rules of developing and stuff. So that's what we'll get into today. And hopefully the goal is to allow you to think clearer about your development, have a better understanding of like what your process should look like, and better awareness of maybe what's holding you back. And so typically players just, I would say, a lot of them work hard and a lot of them are training and putting in a lot of effort, but without really good structure or without really good systems or without really good knowledge of what matters to kind of like elevate your game or go really far in the sport. And so that's what we're going to get into today. So we'll start with, like I said, the overview, the three things that we talked about. So if I were to build everything from the ground up with an athlete, I'd start with basic truths. So the things that always have worked and always will work for performance. And how far you go in the game is kind of comes down to how closely your approach aligns with how hockey and performance really work. So kind of like an accuracy thing, like how your systems and what you're doing and how you're doing it, how well that aligns with how the game works. And that's why I teach first principles first, the ones that kind of like shape everything else. And the goal is simple. It's to get the highest return on our time, energy, and effort that we put in. And so starting with the right approach makes the path shorter and your time way more effective. And it's that concept of like sharpening the axe before you use it. And so I would say a lot of players, especially what I did, was like, you're trying to chop down the tree with the dull axe and like, I'm trying to get stronger. Like I'm trying to do it faster, but it's like, dude, like let's step back and sharpen the axe. And then like every cut that we're going to do is going to be so much more effective. And that's essentially what the goal would be if I'm building a player from scratch, would be that. And nothing is like right or wrong. It's not about right or wrong. It's about what works for you and how much it actually helps you get closer to where you want to be, essentially. And so the first thing that we're going to get into is the performance map. So this performance is made up of all these different parts, right? Like all connected, and every part of it's affecting each other. It's like a mix of systems, habits, beliefs, skills, inputs. It's like a soup. And so I treat it like a map. And performance is essentially, when I say performance, I just mean like being good at hockey. Like performance is just how good you are at hockey, essentially. And so is the map, right? This whole soup. The better you understand the map, the better your decisions. And that's kind of like how you improve faster and clearly see what matters and what's missing and what's giving you the highest returns. Think of it like Fortnite or COD or something. I don't know. Like if you know the map really well, you're just way more effective in that place. And it's kind of the same thing. If we understand the map of performance, we're just going to be navigating the space way more effectively. We're going to know where to go. We're going to know what to do way better. And then is the performance formula. So this is kind of like how you improve, right? The 4-step system, which is like understand, personalize, prioritize, optimize. We'll get into that and what that means. And then we'll get into the laws, right? Like the rules behind like all growth and development. And these are truths that like apply to everything from mindset, skill, training, structure, and they're tied to every single part of your game. And together, by mixing all these together, we're going to have a clear picture of how performance works, a proven process to actually improve as far as possible, and then the principles and the truths that like keep it all aligned. like the rules for it. And so that's how we're going to start. So if we're going to go into the map, so what Performix is made of. This is what we're going to cover. I'll try to go as quick as possible. And so, like I said, this is what I would use to start to build a hockey player to the highest level. And so you need to understand Performix. If you don't understand what makes you a good player or what doesn't make you a good player or what affects your game, then you're not going to be able to use it to your advantage, or it's going to limit you and you're not going to know it's going to limit you. And so we have performance drivers, performance engines, and then performance viruses. So the drivers are like the internal rules that like make up the athlete. And so we have our genetics essentially, like our wiring, what you didn't choose, but what you're working with. And so this is like the environment you grew up in, the brain that you have, what you were exposed to as a kid. And it can determine your natural athletic ability, your type of neurotype, like whether you have more fast twitch muscle fibers or slow twitch muscle fibers, like I said, your upbringing. And so some players are just born with more. As we know, like talent is like a real thing. Some players are just born more tailored for the sport than others. And so nature isn't fair in that way. And that's just how it works. Nature isn't fair. You have your hand and you have to play your hand as best as possible. And then that's one big piece that affects your performance. And the second one is drive. So this is like how deep you're willing to go, how much you're willing to sacrifice, how much you're going to invest in yourself. And drive isn't just like motivation, for example. It's not just like wanting to get better. It's so much more than that. It's the gap between like just liking the sport and being curious about it, or like structuring your entire life around it. Like just think of like an average athlete versus like Kobe. Kobe would be someone with like that crazy level drive, and you can fall anywhere in between. And so it's like how much you're investing in yourself day to day, what you're willing to sacrifice, how consistent you are, how serious you treat every rep and every session, and how difficulty affects you, if it like kind of sets you back, or if you're able to use that and buzz forward with it. And then the last piece, the third one, is strategy. So it's like what you do with what you have. So drive and genetics and your wiring are things that you can control a little bit, but it's a little more out of your control. The strategy part, the third piece, is all controllable, is what you do with what you have, right? So this is the quality of all your decisions, how you train, who you learn from, what you focus on, where you invest, and how you adapt. It's like the total picture of like all your effort and all your inputs. And so two players can put the same amount of time and effort, but one will go a lot further because one chose better methods. They learned from the right people. They targeted the highest return skills to work on. They avoided distractions, and they know what matters most for them. And so the difference isn't effort, it's usually strategy, and strategy shapes your path. The better it is, the more your effort actually counts. So we have these three categories that really determine the athlete. You have the strategy, you have the genetics, and you have the drive. And these things really make up the big picture, right? And then with that, they show up in 5 main areas of performance. There's 5 different ways that you can develop. It's your mental game, your physical game, skill development, hockey IQ, and game dynamics. And so the mental game is like confidence, fears, identity, beliefs. Physical engine is your speed, your strength, your energy, your recovery, your fueling. Skill development is like the mechanics and the repetitions and what you're working on. Hockey IQ is like your understanding of the game, your recognizing patterns, processing speed. And game dynamics is your like environment quality, environment you're in, the coaches, agents, politics, like managing people, choosing when to go to what leagues, what times, right? And so everything falls under these 5 engines of performance. They're called the 5 engines. And so each engine actually affects the other one, right? And so underneath them is their whole bunch of set of stuff that we deal with. But the 5 engines are simply the only ways you can really improve your performance. It's either going to be physically, mentally, hockey IQ side, skill side, or with the game dynamics, the coaches, the politics, etc. And so that's how simple the game is. If you just get really, really good at all of those, essentially you're going to be able to go as far in the sport as possible. But it's obviously more zoomed in than that. So the process that would get you there, obviously, which we're going to get more into, bear with me here, is using those 5 engines and then personalizing it to you and then optimizing it, which means like if we can give you the highest level truths and the highest level understanding of the mental game, of the physical side, of the skill development, of the hockey IQ, and of how the actual game works, it's going to be hard not to succeed. Like you're just going to have everything you need to succeed, essentially. And so that's the map. That's the 5 engines. And then we have the 4 viruses. These are the things that limit you, that are things that you're not where you want to be yet. And so these are the 4 reasons that players like fall short or they're not as good as they want to be yet. And it's pretty simple, like I said. And it's not really random. Like most people are held back by one of these or more of them at different points. And they're not weaknesses, they're more like information, signals, showing you like where you need to do more, where your development's blocked, or what you don't know yet, or what needs to change. And think of them as kind of like a compass, right? It's giving you direction. And so the first one, which is everybody falls under this one, or most guys fall under this one, at least in my experience, is you want the outcome, not what it takes. So a lot of guys lack a genuine desire. They want to be a high-level hockey player. They want to play Division I. They want to play in the NHL, but they don't want to pay the price of what it takes to get there, or they don't know the price. And so most players just aren't serious enough about the sport. They want, like I said, they want the outcome without the price. They like the idea, not the lifestyle, not the work, right? And there were moments that even I said I wanted it, but I wasn't living like someone who did. And so I lacked that genuineness, and it shows up in what you're willing to sacrifice day to day. So that's the number one major limitation that most players don't have, is they're not doing enough and they want the outcome without that true price of what it takes to get there. Second one is you haven't done enough to deserve the result. So most people just don't put in enough time, energy, investment, skin in the game, or obsession. And again, that ties back to you wanted the outcome, not what it takes. Now it's like you just haven't put in enough volume to get what you deserve, to get what you want. And it always takes so much more than you would probably imagine or that you would probably think. And so every time like I expect it to be better, I had to ask, like, have I really like invested enough to deserve this outcome that I'm chasing, right? And usually, to be honest, it's no. Like I actually haven't done enough to deserve it, right? And so that's the second limitation, is you haven't done enough to deserve the result. The third one, which is kind of a big one I see in sports too, is you don't know what's holding you back. It's a knowledge gap. You don't know enough just about like the sport, about performance, about developing what matters, about yourself, about your own personal puzzle that you have to solve. And that is probably the number one limitation, because we have all this time, all this energy, money, effort, and we give it to certain things, right? But not knowing what to give it to and how is like a huge difference between like going super far or staying still. Like I said before, like one athlete who chooses better methods, who trains more personal to that way, who's more intentional, is going to go much further than the other athlete who just shows up, right? And so that's the third limitation, is knowing what's holding you back or understanding performance at a deeper level. And the fourth one is you stop before it paid off, which is essentially playing the long game. Like you were doing the right things, you were improving, you have the right systems in place, you have that understanding, you have that knowledge, you just haven't done it for long enough. And then again, the misunderstanding here is that most players think that you can get what you want in months, in a year, in 2 years. But essentially the guys who get rewarded the most are the guys who can do it year after year after year after year, because excellence, the result is excellence. It's a result of a compounding effects from years and years and years and years. So another limitation is you're doing the right stuff, you just haven't been doing it for long enough. And essentially these 4 viruses, performance viruses, limit athletes at some level, in some way, everywhere. So you want the outcome and not what it takes. You either haven't done enough to deserve the result, or you don't know what's holding you back, or you stop before it paid off. You didn't do it long enough. Those are the essential only 4 limitations that can ever hold you back. You either don't know enough, you don't actually want to pay the price, you haven't done enough, and you haven't done it for long enough. That's it. There's no other way that you could be limited except for that. And I see a lot of guys work hard and do that stuff too. And each athlete is going to be different in what limits them the most. But if you reverse these 4 viruses, you can create a roadmap for like inevitable success though. Like if you genuinely want the outcome, including the price that comes with it, and you'd be willing to sacrifice and invest in yourself deeply, and put real skin in the game, know what's holding you back, and relentlessly search for the things that you don't yet understand that affect your game, and then do it for long enough, that's how you'll break through. That's how you'll get to the first level. And so with those 4 limitations and those 5 different engines, that's the performance map, essentially. That's understanding what performance is made of and how it works. So with that being said, the 5 engines that we talked about, like the mental side, the physical side, they get deeper in their own way, right? It's like, what is the physical side? You have speed, you have strength, you have all these things. What is the way to actually maximize that, right? Like, how do we actually get the most out of the physical side, mental side, hockey IQ side, etc.? And that's where the performance formula comes in. And so, like I said, it might be a little boring to you. It's like, why am I listening to like understanding performance and stuff and what it makes up and what the limitations are? Is that's a necessity, because if you don't understand what's working, what's there, and what different areas of performance exist, how are you ever supposed to improve them? You can't improve what you can't see or you don't know. And so that's why it's really important to know that. And don't worry, I talked over it, but I have files and all of it in writing that I'm going to send you guys after, so you can review that as well. And so next is the performance formula. So, right, we have all these different categories: the mental side, the hockey IQ side, the physical side, the coaches and politics side, the skill development side. So with those different buckets, this is the formula that I would build a hockey player from the ground up with. And so it's 4 steps. That's all it is, 4 steps. The first one is understanding, like we talked about. And most players think they're doing their best. They train hard, they want to improve. But so many players are massively held back because very few understand how the game works, how performance works, what drives it, how it connects, and how to use it to their advantage. And I would say this is the cheat code. This is the cheat code. An example I love giving is like, imagine like a physicist, like the physics guys. Like, that's the only way we're able to send rockets to space, is because they understand how it works. Understanding is like the ultimate cheat code. You can do anything with it, right? And so it all starts with understanding. If I'm building an elite hockey player from scratch, this is step 1, because understanding gives you the power and ability to use it better, improve it faster, and extract more from it, whether it's skill development, hockey IQ, all those categories, right? The knowledge becomes your edge, and it allows you to make better decisions, train more effectively, and ultimately go further in the sport. And it's not like you need every detail about any of those things, but you need a simple, clear understanding of how performance works, like the key pieces, the rules, how to move through it. And that's what the map gives you. So in skill, for example, understanding would look like which abilities translate best in games, because it's not equal, which ones to focus on based off your style, how to train them, and why some skills separate high-level players more than others, right? That's an example of understanding. You have skill development, but then it's like, what's in skill development that actually translates the most, or what gives you the highest return on your investment in time? That's the first step. In mindset, it's knowing what holds you back, like why you're not confident, like fears, beliefs, expectations, and how to remove them. In habits and systems, it's knowing what actual effort moves the needle for you, because it's not equal. Not all effort moves the needle for you, and how to structure it to get the highest return. In your limits, it's being able to actually see what's preventing you from your next breakthrough, or how to set the conditions up for you to have that breakthrough. And the list goes on. Like, understanding is everything. I cannot emphasize it enough. If I were to start over, I would just honestly just focus on understanding, because like I said before, it's going to shorten your path. You're just going to go way quicker, way easier. Your path to the NHL or your path to Division 1 goes from being this crazy long journey through like something just like shrinks. It's just, you just go, right? And so, like I said before, think about any video game like you were playing growing up, the ones with the maps. The players who knew the map like inside out always had that edge, because they knew like the high ground, the shortcuts, all the angles and all this stuff. And it's the same. Understanding is the same. If you know all the angles and all the rules and all the crevices of skill development, you're just gonna be able to get so much more out of that bucket, out of that engine. And so that's the point. And when you know the map, you can use it. When you don't know the map uses you. You're just playing random. You're just kind of hoping you turn the corner, you get that guy or something. I don't know. And that's why we're breaking up performance in all these different pieces. And then I'm going to zoom in on it, because we need to understand it. If we don't understand, how are we going to actually change these things that are going to make a difference in our career? So step 1, understand. That's the father of all laws. Number 2 is personalize. So once you understand the map, the next step is to personalize it to you. So once we understand like all the maps and performance, all the different places, the next step is to personalize it. So every athlete's different. No athlete's the same. Your journey to be the best player you're going to be is not going to be the same than your next. And again, it ties back into that wiring, that genetics. Everybody's built differently in every category. The skills, the hockey IQ side, the nutrition, everything is going to be different for you. That's going to take you the furthest in the sport. And so that's why it needs to be personalized. If I'm taking an athlete as far as they can possibly go with the highest level of strategy and building them from scratch, we have to be personalized. If everybody's doing the same thing, if everybody's doing the general stuff, then they're not going to be able to go as far because not everybody should be doing the same things, right? And so personalize, that step is about like, where are you right now? What are your strengths? What are your gaps? What are your needs? What makes you different? What's your role, your body, your mindset, your goals? What's holding you back? It's really just understanding you at a deep level and what you need and what works. Because like I said, it's different across every athlete, and especially positionally as well. Like imagine a 6'5" defenseman versus a 5'9" forward, and they both play different roles, different styles. They should not be doing the same thing. They should not be, and if they're doing the same thing, they're leaving major stuff on the table. And that's why the highest level of returns are personal. It needs to be personalized. And again, like I said, it's not everything's equal. Like for example, hockey IQ and the mental side of the game typically give more rewards and create more separation than other parts of the game. If you look at the best players in the NHL, they're not the fastest, they're not the strongest usually, right? It's usually a thing of really high level hockey IQ and really good mindset. Again, not everybody's the same, but some things move the needle more than others. And so personalization is what you do with that understanding and how it becomes your advantage, essentially. So it's using what you know and then making it an advantage for you. And that's the second category. And we're simplifying here. There's obviously the in-depth of like, how do we really like make that happen for the athlete, right? And then I would prioritize. So we understand, then we personalize, then we prioritize. This is actually taking action on what you know now, on action on what's personal to you. So now that you understand the full picture and you've personalized it to your situation, it's time to actually act on it, like I said. So prioritizing means putting your energy where it matters most. So what's going to move you forward the fastest? What's going to give you the greatest return on your investment? And where do you double down? And it should be found, your priority should be found based off of what you discovered about yourself, personalizing your limitations, your goals, where you are right now. And again, it depends on your role, your style, your situation, your end goal, right? Depending on where you want to go is going to determine what you need to do now. And so this is where you structure your time and energy based off clarity of where you want to go. And then, okay, now that we know where we want to be, how do we reverse engineer that to get there? And it should match your priorities. So if hockey IQ is your major limitation that's stopping you from being at that next level, your week should reflect that. Like your week should reflect things that are going to evolve your hockey IQ, for instance, instead of just hoping that it gets better, right? If your mechanics for skating, for example, or you're not producing enough force in your legs and you're slow, and that's really, really stopping you from creating more chances and being an effective hockey player, you need to address that first, and it needs to be reflected in your week. This is what I mean by priorities. You need to get your priorities straight of what's going to take you the furthest and then act on it, right? And then, so after we have understanding, personalization, then priorities, then it's optimize. This is the last step. Optimize is then, so we have any of these categories, and then it's about getting the maximum improvement from that thing, from those things that matter most. So for example, there's, you understand speed plays a huge role in your game. Players like the speed. And you've personalized it. You know how it fits your style, and you know how it gives you that edge. And you've decided that it's deserves like a lot of your time and a lot of your structure, right? Now this is where optimization comes in. It's like knowing exactly which drills like drive real speed gains, when to use them, what type of stimulus builds speed, how long to train, how often, and what intensity, how to adjust your plan as you progress through it, how to balance the training with recovery for consistent progress, and what your body specifically needs to improve as fast as possible. This is where optimization comes in, and this is where like stuff on social media or public stuff isn't good at, or doesn't show you publicly. We may talk about basic performance stuff, basic nutrition, basic training, basic speed, But the specifics of optimizing them, which is getting the most return from them, is usually done by people with specific knowledge about it. Like I said, you'd have to know all those things to optimize speed. And it would exist the same for skill, nutrition, recovery, hockey IQ, all these things, right? And so typically that comes from a deeper understanding that most players don't really have on their own. So this is why elite athletes usually use like elite coaches or mentors or experts in certain fields, not to like work harder, but to make sure that they're doing what actually works and their effort is translating. And so most players stay stuck in this like trying harder stage of it. But essentially, we'd understand first, if I were to take that athlete, build them from scratch, we'd understand first, we have the 5 engines, right? All the different areas of performance. We'd understand them first, then we'd personalize them to the athlete, then we'd figure out what our priorities are, and then we'd optimize them. And that's the process of getting the most out of your time, energy, and effort. And so that's the formula. That's how we would do it. And like I said, I'll give you access to all this stuff after as well, that you'll be able to read and see over in case you forget all this stuff. And so that is the formula. That's how you improve performance at the best level. There's no other better way to improve performance other than to understand it deeply, personalize it, prioritize it, and then optimize it. It's simple, but very few athletes do it. Very few athletes even get to the understanding part. Very few athletes understand what actually makes performance. How do you actually be a good hockey player and what that involves? And then usually they're limited by those 4 viruses in one way really badly. And so once we have like understand what performance is made of, limiting it, what's limiting you, what's holding you back, now we talked about how to improve the performance. And now we can talk about the performance laws, which are just like some things that the laws of how it works, like what governs performance essentially, right? So this is about, these aren't tips. These are things that like shape how performance actually work. And it's like baked into everything that we talked about. And they apply to all parts of the game, from the mental side, the hockey IQ side, the training side. And so no matter what you do, they always show up. And these are the truths that I would install into every player's brain because they are always true and they always will be true. And like I said, my example before, like just as physicists can build rockets understanding the laws of physics, serious players can go really far and build elite, serious careers by understanding the laws of performance. Again, tying back to the law of understanding, right? And so the first law is like we talked about is understanding is power, essentially. Like it's always been true. For example, like we already explained, if you're trying to get faster and you add more plyometrics and power skating, but you didn't understand that speed starts with force, for example, and you simply don't produce enough force, and this is what was preventing you. And so you didn't actually need more speed drills, you needed more time in the gym. And so without understanding the full equation, you chase the wrong inputs, you chase the wrong thing, you don't get results from wrong things. So that's an example of lack of understanding. From hockey IQ, you're not scoring. So you practice for hours fixing your shot, for example. But the real reason that you're invisible on the ice is you're not actually just getting to dangerous spots or demanding the puck. It was never a problem with your shot. You're just not getting any shots because you weren't in any good positions, right? So it wasn't a skill problem, it was a positioning problem. And when you finally understand what's limiting you, it becomes clear what you need to do. But like I said, this is the hardest thing, is understanding. And most people have major misunderstandings like what they need to do to get more IQ, or what they need to do to get more skill development, or how to get faster, for instance. And they usually mistake it for other things that it's not. In confidence, right? If you don't feel confidence on the ice, you may add more routines, or you put in more effort or more preparation. But what you didn't understand is that the mind doesn't work through force. Confidence isn't built by doing more. It's built by removing everything that's in the way, from fears to expectations to certain beliefs and pressure. And so you're playing the game of addition, but your real confidence comes from playing the game of subtraction. And that lack of understanding will massively limit your ability to improve. And I hope you really understand the potency and importance of understanding. It'll make the difference between you reaching that high level or staying stuck, right? And we won't go through all of these laws here, but the second one is your path is your own, which I think a lot of athletes missed, which means performance isn't copy paste. You shouldn't be doing exactly what the other athletes doing, like we talked about. Everybody's built differently, and your goals are different, your situation's different, your style is different, your priorities are different. And We have all these different genetics and everything. And so like we talked about, two players can train the same and play the same and get different results, right? And you shouldn't be doing the same thing with completely different guys. Some athletes strive on structure, some strive with flexibility. Some like the routines, some hate it. Even skill work like isn't universal. Like what you're doing on your stick handling pad or what you're doing when you go to stick and puck or go on the ice depends on what your goals are, what your potential is, what you want to see yourself be doing. So again, that's a law that you need to understand that exists and always does exist. The third one, which is the last one I'll get into now, is know what you want. And this is huge. Knowing what you want will give you the path on how to get there. So it's that clarity, like you clearly just understand that player you want to be. And it gives your effort direction. Like you're just moving way closer to your goal. And so you need a detailed vision of what success looks like, feels like, and is like for you. And then you can reverse engineer it. Like if you want to be this player in the NHL who thinks this way, feels this way, performs this way, then you have that clear outcome. It's like now the path becomes clear on how to get there. Your decision, all these decisions you're going to make along the way is going to be more accurate to what your end outcome is. And so the clearer you are in your potential and your destination, again, the shorter the path becomes. And so I would like write it out, like write it on half a page. Like what exactly is that player you want to be? What does he look like? What does he think? What is he feeling? Where is he? What kind of style does he play? Like everything about that person, because it's going to allow your effort, like I said, to be more directed in that way, in that direction that you want to play in. So it lets you filter what matters and what doesn't matter. And it allows you to filter what to spend more time on and what less time on, and personalize your process based off your end goal. Third one, last one, fourth one. Simplicity wins. This is, again, something I think major misunderstood. So being elite at the simple things is more valuable than being average at like complicated things. So instead of being able to do 10 cool different moves, it's just a lot more effective being able to move laterally very well, lateral deception really well, because that one simple tool shows up everywhere and actually works. And so if you're surgical at a few fundamentals, the basic things, it will take you so much further in sport than being mediocre at like 100 different tricks or skills, right? And so simplicity always wins. It'll take you so much further if you're just really, really, really good at the simple things. Instead of, like I said, being able to do all these moves, instead of being able to do like the Michigan through the legs crazy stuff, although that's fun and it's great, and I mean, some players use it well, the game will take you a lot further by mastering simplicity, by mastering the simple things. And I think deception, like I said, is the best example for that, for players at least, is that a lot of players just overthink it, or they're trying to learn so many skills. It's just, you need to just get really, really good at deceiving laterally, making one player think you're going one way and then going another way, for example. And it's the same that like what I teach in like the core development principles too, like simplicity. Like most players don't have their head up enough. They don't pre-scan. They don't demand the puck. They don't hold it on for long enough, and they don't really have patience and poise. Those are all 5 really simple things that everybody knows about. Everybody knows that they work, but everybody's on the low end of them. Like doesn't have their head up. Like almost no player, or very few players, especially a little bit younger, play completely with their head glued up. Watch Bedard, watch McDavid. Like if you're seeing those players play like that, that should be a major priority for you, being really, really good at that simple thing. Same with pre-scanning, demanding the puck, holding onto the puck longer. And so, like I said, being really, really good at those simple things takes you way further than being able to do all different kinds of tricks or things like that, right? And so those are just some of the rules that are true and always will be true when it comes to the sport. And so essentially, we have the map, like what is performance made of, the formula, like how do we actually improve in performance, and then the laws, like what actually matters in performance. And like I said, we're not solving anybody's world problems here with the Zoom call. We're just trying to think of it a little bit differently, trying to think of it a little bit deeper. So the whole point is with your effort, with your energy, with your time, you get way more out of it, because that's all it is. Especially if you, this is why I say serious players only, because if you're a serious player, you're willing to do what's necessary to reach that next level. right? And so you want to know these things. You want to be able to get better. And so you're putting in the effort, but effort isn't enough. Effort doesn't make big differences. Effort only with effort that makes a difference, like gets you further. And so it's the right effort in the right way at the right time. And so that's the key piece there. And to be able to do that, we need to simplify performance and how to get good at hockey, and understand that first. And then we can zoom into all the little things, right? Because if you don't understand that, then it doesn't really matter kind of like what kind of tiny things that we get into or how we zoom in. And it'll help you just make so many better decisions in what you choose to work on and what you choose to do and how you want to perform. And then, for example, if we go over all these things, right? We have the map with the viruses, the things that are holding you back, the different buckets of performance, like the engines, and we understand the things that are driving our performance, and we can kind of get a really good picture of how to develop or where I'm at right now. And then that's when you can use that formula that we talked about, the understanding it, personalizing it, prioritizing it, and then optimizing it for every part of your game. The mental game, like the confidence, the fear, identities, beliefs, physical side of the game, strength, speed, mobility, energy, nutrition, skill development, mechanics, the skills that you select to work on, how well they transfer, how much you do them, hockey IQ, game knowledge, pattern recognition, processing speed, decision-making all over the ice, positioning, and game dynamics, like the environment that you're in, et cetera, right? And then we could zoom in on each one of these buckets. There's nothing that exists outside of these 5 performance engines. Mental, physical, skill, hockey IQ, game dynamics, nothing. That's it. That's the only way you can go as far as possible. And so if you can maximize each of one of those things, maximize meaning like optimize, like get the most out of them, you're like demanding success. It's gonna be so hard not to be an incredible hockey player. It's gonna be so hard. And then you evaluate yourself if you have any viruses, those viruses that we talked about, like you're wanting the outcome without the price, those things that I'll give you. And you understand where you're at in that process, and you can diagnose yourself if you're there, not there. Oh, I have this virus, or oh, really, I might be here. And you can do that, dude. Like, you're gonna go far. Like, you're gonna go so far if you understand these 5 different buckets of performance, and then use that formula, and then make sure you don't have any viruses, or understand where you're at in the viruses. You're going to go so much further. You're gonna go so much further. And that's essentially how I would build a hockey player from scratch. That's how I would build a hockey player from scratch, is through that kind of process. And like I said, I'll send you guys all those files and stuff that you can read over, so it doesn't just go over your head and you forget about it. But honestly, that is the only way I would try to take a hockey player as far as possible. And the reason I didn't give you some sort of script around it is because there is no one path. Like we talked about that thing before, is that every athlete will have a completely different path at the farthest point in their sport for them, or going the farthest in the sport, or becoming elite. It means different things for different players. And so you should only be competing against the best version of yourself. You should only be competing and measuring yourself against what you could be, not against other people. They have different genetics. They grew up in a different environment. They have a different brain. They've done different things. You shouldn't be competing against them. Essentially, you're on the ice with them, and you are, but in the internal sense. And so that's essentially the process I would use to get as far as possible in the sport, zoomed out. But we can have obviously more conversations and zoom in into those specific topics, right? Because we talked about the mental game and the physical side of the game and what that actually looks like, what actually makes those pieces, because we don't have forever here. But yeah, and like I said, we didn't come out here with a script of like, this is what a perfect athlete looks like, because everybody has their own path. Everybody's puzzle is different. And so you need to solve your own puzzle. And so I would love to come out here and tell you, do these 3 things and you get here. But that's all bullshit. That's all what social media says. These 3 drills that'll transform your life, or these 5 things that'll make the biggest difference. And you'll even see it on my social media, but it's for like getting attention. None of those things matter. None of those things work. No 3-step thing is getting you anywhere. Your puzzle will be yours to solve, but you could have help and development on how to solve your own puzzle, and then optimizing those specific categories. But that is the process. If I were to build an athlete from scratch, that's what I would do. Understand all of those 5 areas of performance, what they are, how
Mhm.
they work, then personalize it, then we figure out what your priorities are, and then we optimize it. So it's actually how to get the most from all those categories. But like I said, I think the biggest piece, it starts from understanding. And we talked about some of those examples of what not understanding looks like. And it's very evident, especially because I work with players too. There is a major lack of understanding, and they're missing out. They're leaving a lot of development on the table because they just don't know how things work. And it's nobody's fault. It's not like a bad thing. They just don't know. I didn't know. That's why I would like to go back in time and do it all over. And if I did it all over this way, with this system, I believe I would be 10 times better, like way better. Um, Essentially, yeah, I'll send you guys all this stuff and read it over as well. But essentially, I was just kind of talking through it with you guys in my own opinion about what would I do to build a hockey player from scratch and go as far as possible. And I'll give you those to read over as well. But hopefully, it made you like think a little bit deeper about the game, or like question some things about yourself, or question some things of what you're doing, what your process is. If you're truly serious, right? If you're truly serious about going far, and can help you to then start maybe figure out what's going to really translate for you, what's going to get the most out of your development, instead of just showing up and hoping that things happen for you. Because again, I thought it was all about effort growing up and just like working hard and showing up. But the game is so much more than that. I'd rather put in half the time and do it like with strategy and knowing what I want, and knowing what I want to improve with purpose, than do twice as many reps or twice as much effort not knowing. So yeah, does any of you have any questions about anything? I'd answer anything specifically that any of you guys have. You can throw it in the chat, or you could just like ask it, whatever. It could even just be like, how do I get faster, or something, whatever you guys want. I'd be open to answer anything.
Yeah, Mateo, I had a question actually.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Um, I was just always thinking about like how important is it to surround yourself with players that are better than you? Um, and it's because right now I'm in a training program, um, and I'm like one of the older kids in it, one of the
Yeah.
more skilled kids. Like I'm one of like the few junior guys in it.
Yep.
I love the program. It's great. Like I can tell I'm getting better.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm not really surrounding myself with people that are a lot better than me.
Yep.
So I'm wondering, like, I mean, obviously, like, it's great to have both best of both worlds. Like, you're in a program that you love, and you're surrounding yourself with players that are better than you. But like, what do you think should be prioritized more? Being in a spot where it's like the perfect program for you,
Mm-hmm.
or a spot where you're playing with guys that are just like better than you.
Yeah, I think they're both very important. It can depend on the athlete. Um, I would say the program comes first. Your process comes first, because if I were to think about it, if you were doing just very generic stuff with like NHL guys, I'd rather you have a really intentional process with like kindergartners. Like I wouldn't even care who you did it with. But that being said, exposure is everything. And what I mean by that is like exposure in all different ways. Exposure to D1 and NHL players, like training with them, or exposure to like certain people growing up. Like that's how the human body and the human system works. Like where you are right now is a reflection of what you've been around most, essentially. Oh, what's that? I gotta turn my do not disturb on. Yeah. So what you're most consistently exposed to becomes your defaults in a way. Like
Mm.
your mind, your routines, your standards are all products of your environment. Whether like from a kid growing up, whether from the TV shows that you used to watch, whether from like what you learned about hockey at a young age, like all these things, your environment essentially like shapes you. I mean, everybody knows that at some level, right? And so if you change what you're exposed to, you can change what becomes possible for you in a way too. So I would highly, highly recommend anybody like to get on the ice with the highest level players as possible, because that exposure, you don't even have to like think about it. Things just start to change within you if you're exposed to like, let's say high level players for a longer period of time. I've experienced it in my own way, because I had the same kind of thing growing up too, where like I feel like I was always one of the better skaters on the ice. Without trying to sound cocky about that, but I would have loved to be the worst player on the ice, like every time. I would have loved that, honestly, truly, because I would have been able to learn and get more from like high level players when I was younger, like stuff about like their standards and like their pace and their habits, and have that like seep into me in a way. And it seeps into you without even like realizing it. That's what the human body is. Things just seep into you. Your environment affects everybody in every possible way. And so your baseline can change if you expose yourself to better environments or high level environments. But that being said, I think your process comes first. So if the program is like truly incredible and it's amazing, it's really serving you in a lot of different ways, I wouldn't worry too much about the exposure side of things when it comes to like being on the ice. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Okay, sweet. Anybody else got anything? Okay, we got a chat one. How do you control burnout? Again, this follows the rule of every path is your own. Players burn out at different levels. Like there's players that can handle a ton, players that don't. Like some amazing players that I play with in D1 or other places, like really like low volume. Like they like to just like spend small amounts of time on the ice to get burnt out easily. Some players like can be training all day and have no problem. So controlling burnout is just being super aware of yourself, of your own feedback. Meaning just like feeling your body and your mind, and kind of, I get it's kind of cliche, but like listening to your body in a way. I think that's pretty valuable. There is no standard burnout. And I think just being super aware of the difference between being tired and being burnt out, because they're different things. Like when I'm training hard and when I'm really trying to develop, I'm always tired. Like that's the point, dude. Like I'm training hard, but there's a distinct difference between burnout and being tired. And so I would really try to like define that line for you. There is no answer. It's just be super aware of your body. If you feel like you're burning out, if you feel like you're not tired, it's something different than being tired, then take a step back. But then tying back to a different issue, most athletes do not do enough. I can promise you that. Like most athletes do not invest enough in themselves to even get to burnout. So I can tell you, just statistically, very few athletes will get to the burnout because they don't do enough. But that being said, be aware of the difference between tired and burnout. Listen to your body, listen to your mind. Okay, next question. What do D1 coaches look for the most in the recruiting process? So the way coaches work in D1 and other places is they think about not necessarily the player as much, more like value to the team. They truly do not, how do I say this? They don't really give a shit about you. They give a shit about winning. Like that's what they care about. They care about winning. And if you don't fit a role on their team to help them win, then they probably won't get you, or they probably won't want you as much. So their process is, how do you help the team win? So in the recruiting process, they look for a player who fills a specific role, fills a specific identity that helps the team win. So to be really, really good at a few things that's going to help the team winning. So for example, some guys, I'm being really clear on that. So instead of being like okay at everything, it's being like really good, like a really clear role and identity that helps the team win. Whether you're a goal scorer or like a super defensive guy, like shut down defenseman, be really, really good at what your strengths are. That's what I would say. Whatever your strengths are, make them superpowers, because that's translatable to the next level. Because they'll find a guy, if you're a goal, let's say you're a goal scorer, everyone wants to score goals, whatever. And you're trying to like balance out, I would focus more on like, yes, you need to be decent at everything else, but like just turn your strength of goal scoring into like a superpower, because that's going to get you recruited way more, because you're going to help that team win with that set of skills. That's going to be hard to replace. If you have a set of skills that's hard to replace, your recruitment value just skyrockets. And so that's what I would suggest for getting recruited at the highest level. Because let's say if you're that goal scorer, they'll find a guy who plays defense really, really well, who plays a different role. So just think about it that way. You need a clear value to a team winning, and double down on those skills and have skills, develop skills that become irreplaceable. That's going to get you recruited. That's what they look like. That's what they look for. Players that are going to help their team win by being very good at some things, for sure. Okay. A lot of questions here. Just curious, what should you be doing the mindset while injured? There's nothing you can do. Learn. I would say if you still want to get better while you're injured and you want purpose and you want drive, learn. Like read a lot, or watch a lot of videos, or listen a lot, or improve in different ways that you weren't improving before. It's all about perspective. Like, it doesn't mean you sit around and you be a slump, right? It's injured. It sucks. It's part of the game. No one says it doesn't suck. But find different ways to improve that you would never had the chance to improve before. Because now you have way more time, more energy, more things. Put that time, energy into different things that you would have never had the time before. Like I said, learning, reading certain things, like journaling beliefs about your mind. I mean, if I were to work with that athlete, we'd find specific things that we can do to maximize returns while we're injured, obviously, as well as trying to get back as fast as possible. And just taking that time and resources and doing the most you can with that. That's what I would say. And that driving purpose to be able to get better, even while you're injured, is going to be valuable. It's going to feel good. Do you think paying for showcases is worth it? It depends. It depends on what showcase, for who, what position you're at, and who invited you. For example, I'll tell you something about USHL camps or NOL camps or something, or showcases. Most of them are money grabs. I think people know that. Maybe some players may get picked up if they really, really stand out, but the organizations do that for money. They do that to raise money. So that's the system. And if you're like a draft pick, let's say, if you were hoping to make the team in the USHL or the NOL, for example, like junior leagues, and you weren't drafted, and you really thought you were going to make the team, I probably wouldn't spend the money, because they're not really looking for that. They're looking to get money, and they're looking to watch their draft picks and have that happen. But some players here and there, they escape that little thing, and they do end up getting an opportunity right through those showcases and camps. So it's not one size fits all, but just to know, most of them are money grabs, unless you're looking to like get tournament exposure or like actually just play games. That's fine. That's fine. But with the expectation to like really get something out of it, most of the showcases are just to raise money. That's just how the game works. How do you increase acceleration and top speed? That's a question I could talk to you about for hours, and it depends on the athlete, depends how old are you, depends what stage you're at. Most players aren't fast for a few reasons. They're either not strong enough, because that's what produces force to begin with. Then they can't convert that strength into power, which is the second phase. You're strong, but you can't convert it to power. And then there's like fiber composition and other things like fast twitch and tendon stiffness and other things. So there's kind of three big categories that in one area or multiple, the athlete will be leaking. So maybe the athlete's very fast twitch, but they're not very strong. Maybe the athlete's very strong, but they don't convert that strength fast, power. And there's different ways to train those systems to get you faster. So for every athlete, it's different. Like I said, it'll always come back to that rule. It's like your path is your own. It's personal. It's specific. But if you want to increase speed, essentially some generic things that you should be doing is sprinting 2 to 3 times a week. Absolutely, for sure. Sprinting is probably the most translatable way to get faster on the ice. Plus, obviously, with a really high-level structured off-season program, I would totally recommend that. And having like power lifts in there you're attacking all those three bases. We want to be really strong, and then we want to convert that strength into movement really fast, so rate of force development, and then we want to be able to move really fast with those fast switch fibers and other things. So that's essentially what you'd want. How do I deal with low confidence on the ice? Low confidence isn't something to deal with. Low confidence is barriers. There's things you need to remove to become more confident. So why you're not confident is not something you need to add, like I talked about before. It's things you need to subtract. There's things that are limiting you, whether it's you feel like you need to impress your parents, and so you put unnecessary pressure on yourself. The pressure clouds your instincts, because now the mistakes represent consequences. So the mistakes are like serious. The mistakes are serious for you. And if the mistakes are serious, then your stick is gripped too tight. You hesitate. You're not intelligent on the ice anymore. So confidence is something that you need to figure out what's in the way. They can be in the forms of beliefs, expectations, fears, thoughts, different ways. And like I said, I could literally sit down and talk to you about confidence for 24 hours straight, of what the possible limitations things could be. Depends on you. And like I said, I work with athletes on some of those things as well, as addressing what those things are. What was the biggest difference making the jump from minor hockey to junior hockey to college hockey? And what lessons made the transition smoother? The lessons that made the transition smoother is what I'm telling you now. That's what made, not knowing that is what made it rough. The biggest difference, I think it depends on the guy. I think if you're ready to play at those higher levels, transitions are typically easier, but like the game just gets faster. The guys just get better. There's less time and space. Um, I would say time and space is the biggest thing. You just have way less time and space. That's why hockey IQ translates such at a high level. Like the best players in the world, or like the best players in the NHL, just have such a high hockey IQ. Is because when the game gets faster, to be able to make good decisions with no time or very little time is like a super important skill in hockey. So I would say that is the biggest difference is just time and space, and being able to use your skills like with so much less time, so much less space. Going into the BCHL as a 2009 first year rookie, how would your mindset be coming in? Knowing now, there's different ways that you could be coming in. I'd be coming in. I don't know if I can swear on here. I'd be coming in like fuck everybody else. Like I don't care what they think. They're gonna be my buddies. That's great. But I'm going in there to dominate. I'm here to go far in the sport. Like if you're a serious player, this is what I'm coming in to do. I'm coming in to be elite. And so what players can do is when they get to juniors or when they get to higher levels, they're a little bit reserved. Like they're playing against better players than they're used to. The game's a little faster, and they're just like a little more hesitant, or a little more like they respect the other players at the high level. But it's like if I were to do that, it's like nah, I'm coming in to be the guy. Like these players, whatever, they're good. There's less time and space. No big deal. I'm a sick player. I will do what's necessary to go far. I'm gonna come in here with conviction and come and try to dominate. So that's the mindset I'd be going in. Generally speaking, it's just not to play reserved or anything like that. Is that these guys aren't better than you that are already there. Go in there as an equal or above, and go with that mindset that like I'm coming in to dominate. I'm coming in because I'm an amazing hockey player and I'm going to show it. All right. So yeah, I think that's it. Anyone else have any more questions?
Yeah, I got one, Mateo.
Yeah, sure.
So you touched on like how hockey IQ is like so important and how everybody like every high level player like that's what separates. What is the best way to like advance your hockey IQ?
Yeah. So it's different for different guys. Some guys, it's also kind of ties into that genetic things. Like some guys are just naturally smarter than others. Deal with it. That's just the sport. But there's two different ways. There's two steps to kind of attack like the hockey IQ side. There's like game knowledge, like there's game understanding, and then there's being able to like apply that. They're two huge different things. So the game knowledge is just like knowing and understanding like what is most effective. So if you like watch a lot of film or like watch a lot of NHL players, you'd be like acquiring some game knowledge. Like, should have done this here. Should have done this here. Oh, players cut to the middle a lot on rushes. That's good information. That's good knowledge. That's the first step, is like understanding the game, like what makes it effective. And like really good ways for doing that is like watching like the NHL players you model your game after, or doing lots of film review of your own game. Just essentially watching a lot of hockey. For example, like when you see like Instagram guys, like maybe Conscious Hockey or other guys, or along the ice hockey, that's like game knowledge essentially. It's just like it's fine. It's you need it in a certain way to be able to understand. Okay, this is how he deceives guys, or this is how these moves are made. Oh, he waits long to do this, for example. Game knowledge, that's great. That don't mean shit if you can't apply it in games. So that's the second part, is like having a high game knowledge of like what should happen and what high level players do, what makes them effective. And that's how you apply it in your game. You can know the whole world, but when it comes on the ice and you have to do it yourself, completely different story. And so for something like that, it's so much like trial and error and so much like game situation stuff. So to keep it simply, not go on too long about it, is for the second stage, which is like the application of hockey IQ, honestly, play as many games as possible. It comes down to focus and attention. Like when you're in game situations, for example, in practice, or like small area game drills, just like that. Like don't just go through the motions. Like really like take that game knowledge you have and like really try to use that. Really try to learn. Really try to get better. It's like, this rep like didn't go. It's like you really want to get better the next rep. It's like this drive. Plus like putting yourself in all these different game situations consistently under pressure, like 100%. Plus playing games a lot and learning from those games. That's probably the best kind of process ish when it comes to developing hockey IQ, without zooming in too much, because we could really get into the specifics of what those look like and how to optimize them. But looking at that, I would get a lot of game knowledge and find a lot of different ways to apply it. And simply put, that's what I would do. Anyone else have any more questions? No. Okay. No more? Oh, wait. Oh, yeah. Okay. Sweet. Last chance. Fire a question. No question? Okay. What I can do is also I'll try to get all of your information to send out like what we kind of talked about today, like the map and the formula and the viruses and the laws, because I kind of just like threw a lot at you without like a slideshow or diagram, but I didn't want it to feel like school, so I didn't put those up there. But I'll send those over to you guys to read if you like shoot me a message on text message or something. Let me put my number in the chat or DM me or something. I don't know. Save the number, text me, I'll send you the stuff. And everyone who joined the Zoom call can also have like a free improvement call that they can set up with me personally where we can get a little deeper into things. Improvement call being like, we can like frame what we talked about today, like how I would build an athlete from scratch and then more apply it to you, specifically to your game, your style, your role. And I can tell you what I think is going to be best, etc. On that front. But so, yep, if you want that free improvement call or those files that we talked about just so you can read over for free, just shoot me a text and we'll roll from there. I think that's a good setup. So anyone else have any more questions about it or? No? All right, guys. Sounds good. All you can leave.